Hi, welcome back to Mrs. Thompson's classroom. We're continuing our unit on trigonometry, and we're going to talk today about how to find our trig ratios for any angle if we're given a point. So let's take a look at our coordinate plane and pick any point. So we're just going to call this point over here x, y. And what we're trying to find is if there was a ray passing through that point that created this angle, we want to know what the sine and the cosine value at that angle are. Now what we're actually going to do is we're going to look at what's called the reference angle for that, which is the angle that comes up from the x value. So when I do that, I now have formed a right triangle. And this height is y, and the horizontal distance here is x. So I have a right triangle, and I know both of the legs. So I can find the hypotenuse. So r is going to equal the square root of x squared plus y squared from our Pythagorean theorem. And now that I have that triangle labeled, sine will always be y over the hypotenuse, because this is opposite over hypotenuse, which is now y over r. Cosine being adjacent over hypotenuse is now x over r. And my tangent, which is opposite over adjacent, or sine over cosine, is now y over x. That then allows me to find the reciprocal functions. Cosecant would be r over y, secant would be r over x, and cotangent would be x over y. Okay, so we can relate our trig functions to the x value and y value of that point. Now, let's do a particular point. So instead of just calling it xy, let's say we're at -2, 5. Okay, so this picture is a lot like the one I just had, and we're talking about this reference angle to find this angle. And so we have a right triangle with a y value of 5 and an x value of -2. So my r squared, will equal 5 squared plus -2 squared. So r is going to equal the square root of 29. So sine is going to be my y value over my r value. My cosine is going to be my x value over my r value. And that's going to make tangent equal to the y over the x. Okay. Now we do want to rationalize these. So if I multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 29, we will get 5 square root of 29 over 29. I can also then find the cosecant by taking the initial fraction and flipping it over to square root of 29 over 5. I would find the reciprocal of the fraction before you rationalized it. Okay, so secant will be negative square root of 29 over 2. And when I rationalize cosine, I get -2 square root of 29 over 29. My cotangent is -2 fifths. Okay, so notice if we're in quadrant 2, the x value is negative and the y value is positive. So that made cosine negative and it made tangent negative, but sine stayed positive. So if I was in quadrant 3, where they're both negative, the sine would be negative, the cosine would be negative, and that would make the tangent positive. Okay. All right, so go ahead and practice this one. And you can pause the video and practice it, and then come back and hit play, and I'll show you the answers. All right, so 4, -3 is over here in quadrant 4. My R value would be the square root of 4 squared plus -3 squared, so that's the square root of 25. So sine is going to be -3 over 5. Cosine will be 4 over 5. And that makes tangent -3 over 4. And then we can flip each of those over to find the reciprocal functions. Okay, so hopefully that worked well for you. We will see you in class next time. Next time we're going to look at the unit circle and kind of figure out how that works, what it looks like, and that will allow us to actually know all of these values around the coordinate plane. So see you next time.